Hello everyone and welcome to my B&B Fan Club channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The rain fell relentlessly, banging against the tin roof of the ancient house on Maple Street. The air within was heavy with the fragrance of moist wood and unsaid anguish. Will sat at the kitchen table, his hands tightly wrapped around a broken coffee mug, the steam long gone. His red-rimmed, sunken eyes fixed on the grain of the oak table, as if it held answers to questions he hadn't dared to ask aloud. Luna stood across from him, her back against the counter, arms crossed, her face a mask of tiredness and defiance. The quiet between them was alive, vibrating with years of unspoken truths and hidden pain. Electra was upstairs, her tears drowned out by the thin walls. Bill, her husband, sat on the edge of their bed, head in his hands, attempting to make sense of the secret that had just shattered their lives. The discovery struck like a thunderclap, shattering the fragile tranquility to which they had all clung for so long. Luna's baby, her precious, innocent daughter only 6 months old, wasn't only hers. She was Will's too. And now, after months of denial and avoiding the reality, Will had finally accepted it. However, the acceptance came too late, and at a cost neither of them could have predicted. It began 2 years ago, in a summer that seemed to belong to someone else's life. Will and Luna were close back then, caught up in a tornado of desire and recklessness. They were young, barely out of their teens, and the world appeared to bend to their will. Luna, with her wild laugh and eyes that shone like a lake in the moonlight, was the focus of Will's existence. He'd loved her intensely, the type of love that burns so hot it leaves scars. But their love wasn't without flaws. Luna's family did not approve of Will, a boy from the wrong side of town with no prospects and a propensity for trouble. They desired something more secure for her. Someone like Bill, who was already establishing a name for himself at the local law firm. Will and Luna's relationship had shattered beneath the weight of their expectations. Harsh words were exchanged, promises were broken, and Luna went away one night, leaving Will with only regrets. She married Bill not long after, which Will perceived as a betrayal, despite knowing he had no right to feel that way. He'd moved on, or so he told himself, immersing himself into work at the car shop and drowning his sorrows in inexpensive whiskey. Luna, meantime, settled into a life of placid domesticity with Bill, which appeared perfect on the surface but was based on a foundation of compromise. Luna's older sister, Electra, had always been the mediator. She was the one who smoothed out disagreements, mediating between Luna's rage and their parents' rigidity. When Luna married Bill, Electra was her maid of honor, smiling despite her reservations because she wanted her sister to be happy. But Electra knew Luna better than anyone else. She noticed a spark of restlessness in her sister's eyes, and Luna's grin never fully reached her soul. And when Luna announced her pregnancy, Electra's happiness was tempered by a nagging suspicion that something was wrong. The truth emerged in bits, like parts of a puzzle that no one wanted to assemble. Luna had become aloof, her usual liveliness diminished. She avoided Will, who still resided in the same little town, as his presence was a continuous reminder of what could have been. But one night, months before the baby was born, Luna arrived at Will's doorstep, tears flowing down her cheeks. She had been drinking. Her remarks were garbled but full of truth. She told him about the night they'd spent together, a reckless moment of weakness following a disagreement with Bill. She informed him she was pregnant and didn't know who the father was. Will pulled her away, refusing to believe it. He couldn't face the thought of being connected to Luna again, especially after everything they'd been through. He told her to leave, to work things out with Bill, and to keep him out of it. Luna left, and they didn't communicate for several months. She gave birth to a beautiful girl called Lily and informed everyone, including Bill, that the baby was his. Bill, who had long desired a family, embraced parenthood with affection, breaking Luna's heart. But the lie gnawed at her, like a poison creeping into every aspect of her life. Electra was the first to suspect the truth. She observed Luna's eyes darting to Will every time he was mentioned, and how she clutched Lily a bit too closely when his name came up. Electra confronted her sister gently at first, but Luna's denials were furious and nearly desperate. It wasn't until Lily was 6 months old, and her features resembled Will's, same dark curls, same determined jaw, that Electra couldn't deny them any longer. She demanded answers, and Luna broke down and admitted everything. The confrontation that followed was a whirlwind of emotions. Electra, divided between devotion to her sister and love for Bill, insisted on Luna telling him the truth. She maintained that both Bill and Will deserved to know. Luna resisted, scared of losing the life she had built, but Electra's persistence eventually broke her down. They agreed to tell Bill together, and when the time came, Electra held Luna's hand as the words flowed out. Bill's reaction was not what they had anticipated. He did not rage or storm out. Instead, he sat in horrified stillness, his face crumpling with the weight of the reality. When he gazed at Lily, who was sleeping in her cradle, he let out silent sobs. Electra, who had always been the strong one, also broke down, her tears booming throughout the home. Luna stood transfixed, unable to meet Bill's gaze, her guilt palpable in the room. Will was the last to know. Luna approached him alone, her pulse beating as she stood on his threshold once more. She told him everything, the baby, the lie, and the anguish she had caused. Will's immediate thought was to close the door, to keep her out again, but something in her voice stopped him. Maybe it was the tiredness, or the raw honesty in her eyes, or the photograph of Lily she pushed into his hands. He gazed at the photograph, at the tiny face that was definitely his, and something inside him crumbled. For days Will struggled with the reality. He did not desire this duty or complication. He'd spent years trying to forget Luna and construct a life without her. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw Lily's face and knew he couldn't leave. He went to see her, cradling her in his arms for the first time and experiencing a love he had no idea he was capable of. He then made his decision. He would accept Lily not only as his daughter, but as a part of his life he could never abandon. But acceptance did not undo the damage. Bill, horrified by the treachery, moved out of the home he lived with Luna. He loved Lily, but every time he looked at her, he saw the lie that had destroyed his trust. Electra, caught in the midst, attempted to keep her family together, but the fissures were too deep. She and Bill depended on each other, their shared sadness creating an unexpected relationship. They spent hours discussing and crying, attempting to make sense of a world that no longer made sense. Luna, meantime, was unraveling. The remorse over her decisions hung on her like a stone. She adored Lily, but she couldn't shake the realization that her actions had harmed everyone she cared about. She attempted to contact Will, thinking that they could find a way to co-parent, to construct something from the ashes of their history. But Will was guarded, and his faith in her had been damaged long before. Their discussions were stilted, with awkward pauses and unstated resentments. The small and gossipy town exacerbated the situation. Luna was trailed by whispers everywhere she went, and judgmental eyes tracked her every move. Some pitied her, some criticized her, but none grasped the depth of her anguish. She felt like a stranger in her own life, torn between her love for her daughter and the consequences of her decisions. Months passed, seasons changed, but the wounds remained sharp. Will became a regular fixture in Lily's life, bringing her for walks in the park, telling her books, and teaching her the rhythms of parenting. He was clumsy at first, unsure of himself, but Lily's laughs and small hands reaching for him gave him direction. He found himself melting, not just toward Lily, but toward the entire universe. However, each visit served as a reminder of what he'd lost with Luna, and how he'd never be able to really have her again. Bill, too, discovered a way to move forward. He and Electra became closer as their shared pain led to something deeper. They didn't say anything about it just yet, but there was a silent understanding between them, the prospect of something new. Bill still saw Lily, unable to let go of the relationship they had made, but he kept his distance from Luna, the pain too fresh to heal. Electra, ever the anchor, tried to make room for everyone. She listened to Luna's concerns, encouraged Bill's recuperation, and even went out to Will in an attempt to reconcile their shattered relationships. But she was exhausted, her heart aching with the weight of her family's grief. She questioned whether she'd ever find peace, or if she'd always be the one picking up the pieces. As winter fell on the town, Luna sat alone in her living room, Lily asleep in her crib. The house was peaceful, the kind of silence that intensifies every thought and regret. She reflected on the decisions she'd made, the people she'd wounded, and the love she had lost. She remembered Will, who was trying so hard to be a father despite everything. She thought of Bill, whose compassion she had taken for granted. And she remembered Electra, who had always believed in her, even when she didn't deserve it. Luna stood and walked to the window, watching the snow fall gently outside. She understood there were no simple solutions, no way to change the past. For the first time in a long time, she felt a glimmer of optimism. Perhaps just maybe they could find a way to heal, not as the family they once were but as something new and stronger. It wouldn't be flawless nor would it be simple, but it was theirs. And while the snow fell, Luna promised herself and Lily that she would keep trying no matter how difficult it became. Because love, even if it is dirty and broken, is worth fighting for. The rain had been falling since morning, thin and silvery, drawing lines down the large windows of the Oakmere Hill mansion. Inside, the silence was thick, interrupted only by the occasional crack of the old timbers in the ceiling. The kind of silence that signals that something is about to break. Not the weather but the people within. Luna stood by the fireplace, her hands quivering over a cracked cup of tea that had long since cooled. She had not slept. She could not. When she closed her eyes, she saw Will's expression again. Disbelief, the sharpness in his gaze when she finally informed him. She rehearsed the lines 1,000 times. "It's your baby, Will. I did not tell you because I was terrified." But when they came out, they sounded smaller than she had hoped, like delicate creatures in a tempest of passion. She waited. He walked out yesterday night without saying anything, leaving her standing there with the echo of her confession. Electra sat on the edge of her bed, holding a photograph. It was an old photo of the four of them. Her, Bill, Will, and Luna laughing in the summer sun, back when everything seemed simple. But that was before lies began to seep into their lives like cracks in a mirror. Bill entered the room silently, his eyes angry, and his shoulders sagged from the weight of too many whispered words. He didn't have to ask what she was looking at. She told him, Electra said quietly, her voice scarcely audible. "Last night." Bill sighed. "He knows now. And he left." Bill nodded slowly. "Then he will come back. He always does." Electra turned toward him, her eyes gleaming. "Not this time. Not after what she said." The front door creaked open. Luna froze. The sound of wet sneakers on the wooden floor caused her pulse to speed. Will was back. He appeared different, weary, drenched but calmer, as if the rain had cleansed something from him. He shut the door behind him and simply stood there, staring at her. For a long time neither spoke. The quiet between them was dense and deadly. Will's voice finally burst through, gruff and low. "How come you didn't tell me, Luna?" She swallowed hard. "Because I didn't think you'd believe me." He laughed hollowly. "You're correct. I did not. Not then. But I had to hear it from you. I needed to see your face when you said it." Luna stepped forward. "Will, I was afraid. You were frequently absent, focusing on your work or other priorities above us. I didn't know how to reach you anymore." He looked down, his mouth stiffening. "So you kept this from me? You allowed me to think." "I didn't let you think anything," she interrupted, her voice shaking. "You created your own assumptions. You saw what you wanted to see. I tried, Will. I tried to tell you, but something always stopped me." "What stopped you, Luna? What's the truth?" Her breath caught. You stopped me. Because every time I looked at you, I remembered how easy it was for you to walk away the previous time." Will's expression softened significantly. The firelight danced between them, and for a moment, it felt like they were the only two people on the planet. Then came the sound of footsteps. Electra and Bill walked down the staircase together, pulled by the tension in the air. Electra's gaze shifted from Will to Luna, then to the small snapshot on the mantel, the prenatal image Luna had placed there only days before. Bill breathed sharply. "So it's true," Will said, nodding slightly. "It's true." Electra's knees appeared to buckle beneath her. She slumped to the bottom step, tears streaming freely. "Have you both been hiding it all along?" Luna turned to her, remorse imprinted on her features. "I didn't mean it to happen this way," Electra said, her voice cracking. "Didn't intend for what? Will he find out? For me to find out? Luna, you have torn this family apart." Bill approached her, but she pushed him away and buried her face in her hands. The room seemed too small, too full of what they hadn't said. Will took a big breath. Stop. Just quit. I am the one who left. I'm the one who refused to believe. Electra gazed up at him, her eyes watering. Are you defending her? I'm not defending anyone, he stated gently. I'm done blaming. I spent months avoiding the truth because it scared me. Because I didn't want to admit that a part of me still belonged here, to her. Luna's breath caught. Will. He looked her in the eyes, free of wrath for the first time. Only fatigue. Only surrender. I saw him, Will stated abruptly. The baby. When I left last night, I headed to the hospital. I saw the entire file, including the dates. And I realized I had missed everything. His initial heartbeat. The appointments. Luna covered her mouth with quivering hands. Tears flowed down her cheeks, silent and unrestrained. Electra stood slowly, her face paler. You went behind her back? I had to know, Will stated simply. And when I saw his name, I knew he was mine. Bill shook his head, his voice shaking. Do you think knowing makes it right? Do you think that accepting him now erases what you did? Will's eyes clouded. No, it does not remove it. But maybe it's a start. The room went silent. The fire flared weakly, and the rain pattered against the glass like distant applause for a moment neither of them had anticipated. Luna stepped closer, hesitantly. You want to be a part of his life? Will nodded. I'm not sure how to be a father, not yet. But I know I don't want to miss another chance at something real. Electra looked away, her shoulders trembling. Bill threw his arm over her, but even he couldn't hold back the tears. Do you have any idea what it's like, Electra said, to see everything you believed in crumble in one night? Luna breathed slowly. Yes, I do, she said quietly, drawing everyone's attention. I understand what it's like to adore someone who constantly leaves. To establish a life based on hope and whispering. I didn't tell Will out of cruelty. I told him because I couldn't bear the lie any longer. Bill's expression softened, his fury morphing into something resembling understanding. So what happens now? Luna looked at Will and then back at them. Now we are trying to heal. Somehow hours passed. The rain subsided, leaving behind a dark silver sky. They sat together, not as friends or foes, but as people united by agony, blood, and truth. Electra broke the silence first. I used to believe that secrets protected people, that if you buried things no one would get hurt. She laughed bitterly. But the stillness kills you, isn't it? Luna nodded slightly. It always does. Bill rubbed his palms together. We can't go back. Too much has been said. Will stared out the window. Maybe we don't need to go back. Maybe we could start anew. Electra addressed his stare, the hurt in her eyes gradually becoming to resignation. Do you think it's that easy? No, he replied softly. But it's worth trying. There was something fragile, even sacred, in the silence that followed, like the calm after a storm that had uprooted everything but left behind the opportunity to rebuild. Later, when the others had gone upstairs, Luna returned to the fireplace, where everything had fallen apart, and come together. Will joined her, hands tucked into his pockets. Is he asleep? She inquired. Will nodded. Finally. He looks like you when he sleeps. She gave a small smile. He's got your stubbornness, though. Will grinned under his breath, and for a little moment, everything felt normal. Then his voice became serious again. I'm not sure how to repair this, Luna. I'm not sure how to make it right. You don't have to, she replied. You just have to stay. He gazed at her, as if it was the first time he had seen her in years. I'm not sure I know how to stay. Then learn, she said quietly. We both can. He took her hand. Her fingertips were icy, yet she did not back away. The contact was modest and timid, but it was genuine, and for them that was sufficient. Upstairs, Electra lay awake beside Bill, her gaze locked on the ceiling. Do you think they'll make it? She inquired. Bill sighed. I do not know. But maybe it isn't the point. He turned towards her. Perhaps it isn't about making it. Maybe it's about facing the reality and still deciding to live with it. Electra closed her eyes, tears silently falling into her hair. I want to believe that. Downstairs, Luna and Will stood together while the fire burned low, its light dancing over the walls, the same walls that had witnessed betrayal, anguish, and now the tiniest glimmer of forgiveness. He gently touched her cheek. "He deserves better than what we gave him at the start." "He will have better," Luna remarked with certainty. "Because we'll be better." Outside, dawn began to break over the horizon, casting the earth a soft yellow. The thunderstorm has passed. The air smelled new and clean. Will stared out the window, then back at her. "Luna." "Yes. I apologize," she said between her tears. "So am I." And in that short, quiet moment, surrounded by the ghosts of their decisions, they began over.